characters hold a special place in the hearts of children if you show them a little respect.
Hi everyone, my name is Ben Laurence and I'm going to be your Fastpass Facts host. One of my favorite pieces of theme park history is the abandoned animatronics. And today we're going to be taking a look at some pretty creepy abandoned animatronics. Funtown Mountain. Funtown Mountain's history is so bizarre and tragic it seems to be something straight out of a Stephen King novel. Back in 1969, Mammoth Cave was bringing a lot of tourists to Cave City, Kentucky, and taking advantage of this, Funtown Mountain opened in the same town. This theme park was themed entirely around the Wild West and offered guests live shows of gunslinging cowboys, a few rides, and many attractions. One of these attractions was actually considered by many to be one of the oldest haunted attractions in the United States. As time went on, the park decreased in popularity, and in 2013, the park was closed down. The park remained completely abandoned for 2 years until 2015 when a man named Will Russell bought the place, renamed it to Funtown Mountain, and reopened it. Here's where the story takes a weird turn. Will wanted to restore the park and he came up with a plan to make it happen. He wanted to raise funds with a carnival road tour through 20 states where there would be live bands, a menagerie of freakish animals, and other weird memorabilia. Unfortunately for Mr. Will Russell, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Ticket sales were not good. The band canceled many of their tour dates, the carnival truck lost its wheels. Everything was pure chaos. Russell lost thousands of dollars, but in spite of this disaster, he still opened the park. The park's concept was pretty interesting. They even kept some of the abandoned areas in the park like the ride carts. It also had a souvenir shop that had unique and strange merchandise. The park also had new attractions like a neon mini golf and a renewed haunted hotel with brand new animatronics. Funtown Mountain also had the Mitzi, Fads, and Billy Bob animatronics from the Rock Affair explosion, and a set of the Wolfpack 5 that were restored by none other than the legendary Creative Engineering and still remain in the Creative Engineering warehouse. The park remained open for less than a year because sadly Will Russell's mental health was not stable. In one of his worst episodes, Russell started destroying and vandalizing his own theme park. In another tragic episode, Russell invited guests into the park and allowed them to take whatever they wanted from it, which resulted in chaos. The Rockafire animatronics were abandoned in the dark and left to rot, just like the souvenir shop. The city officially deemed the property unfit for human occupancy and shut it down. It was bought by David Froggatt Jr. and reopened under the name Froggatt's Funtown Mountain. This new park offers guests live shows, mini golf, and the haunted hotel, among other activities. Fortunately, Will Russell recovered from these mental health problems and recently founded a non-profit to help normalize the topic of mental health called the Everything Will Be Okay Project. In the words of Will Russell, the two things that are incredibly dangerous when it comes to mental health, depression significantly, and that is losing hope and shame. Joko, post-hurricane at Six Flags New Orleans.
Plan a trip to New Orleans for a new kind of fun. Thrilling fun for the whole family when Jazzland Theme Park opens May 20th.
Back in 2001, Jazzland, a new park that paid tribute to the culture and heritage of the city, opened in New Orleans. Surprisingly, the park was not very profitable. It was bought by Six Flags and renamed Six Flags New Orleans, and many improvements and new additions came to the park, but one of the most beloved attractions from Jazzland still remained. Jocko's Mardi Gras Madness was a dark ride that tried to capture the essence of New Orleans and the legendary way in which the city celebrates Mardi Gras. During the ride, a crazy jester named Jocko orders his crew of diabolical creeps, zombies, and skeletons to disrupt Mardi Gras by stealing all the beads and golden doubloons in New Orleans, then hauling off their loot into the swamps for Jocko's private Mardi Gras parade. Riding along in custom-built ride vehicles, the visitor's assignment is to ride through the French Quarter, past the docks in a wrecked showboat, through the city of the dead and into the swamp, braving ghouls, alligators, and werewolves to magically recapture the beads and doubloons. New Orleans jazz, strange off-key calliope music, and dozens of weird sound effects and voices, plus a few unexpected surprises, added to the spookiness of this experience. Six Flags was planning to expand the park and even add in a water park, but unfortunately an extremely sad tragedy occurred in 2005.
Waves of water are already washing over parking lots in the greater New Orleans area, some of the first signs of the approach of Hurricane Katrina.
In August of 2005, Hurricane Katrina arrived in New Orleans, causing irreparable damage to the lives of all the inhabitants. More than 80% of the city was flooded, and Six Flags was no exception. More than 80% of the structures in the park were damaged, and the waters of Lake Pontchartrain flooded the entire park. It took over a month for the water to leave the entire park, leaving a devastating wake. The park was closed down and there was no plan to reopen it. Later in 2006, it was declared a total loss and it was officially announced that the park would not be reconstructed. This left the park completely abandoned. The Jocko animatronics survived the hurricane but remained in an awful state. Over time, the animatronics disappeared and nobody knows for sure what happened to them or where they currently are. As for the park, there have been many proposals from many different companies to demolish it and turn it into a shopping mall or rebuild the park, but for now it remains completely trashed and abandoned. Tex Critters Pizza Jamboree. The 1980s left us with many incredible animatronic bands such as Rockafire Explosion, Munch Make Believe Band, and the Wolfpack 5. One of the animatronic bands that is currently making a comeback is the Tex Critters Pizza Jamboree Band. In a way to enter a new form of family entertainment, Castle Entertainment Incorporated and AVG Technologies created an ambitious concept named Tex Critters Pizza Jamboree, an entertainment center that focused on families. The location had arcade games, TVs showing the most popular channels of the time like MTV, small theaters that showed 3D movies, and of course an amazing band of animatronics. The band was designed by none other than legendary Disney Imagineers Larry Nicolai and one of my personal favorites, Rolly Crump. This band was designed to have a very classic cartoonish look. The band members' names were Skeeter, Cal, Tex, and Roxy. Each animatronic weighed about 300 pounds and were around 8 feet tall. Now these things were designed to last. They used airplane parts to ensure that they would last as long as possible. Their face masks were glued to the inner skull and held in place with buttons. Unlike masks, such as those used by Showbiz Pizza, which were loosely slipped onto the bare mechanism, they could even be remotely controlled with joysticks, allowing the characters to look at specific things. They also had very fluid and natural movements which made them live up to the Disney animatronics. One of the most popular being inside Castle Park Amusement Park in Paso, Texas. But 1984 was a terrible year for Castle Entertainment due to the high cost of managing the different branches. This led to the company closing most of the complexes, including Castle Park. Tex and Company were sold to Magic Landing and relocated to the park's pizza parlor. They were there until the park closed in 1988. Magic Landing was abandoned from its closing in 1988 till 2009, leaving Tex and the band in a terrible state, becoming worse and worse each and every day. It's actually really sad to see something that was created to entertain and bring joy to people end up in such a terrible state. The park was demolished in 2013, but thankfully everything in this story doesn't have a tragic ending. Some fans managed to rescue and rebuild many of the animatronics from different branches and give them a second chance.
Hey Dog Squad, Sauko here. This is the first episode of exclusive series for our Patreons. From $1 you can access this series. We're leaving a link in the description and also in the corner. Back at you, Ben. Thank you.
Five Nights at Freddy's Animatronics Fright Dome and Dr. Creepypasta. Every time someone talks about animatronics, whether they're abandoned, retired, or just plain scary, people have to mention Five Nights at Freddy's. Although these animatronics are fictitious and not really abandoned, we had to include them on this list. Thanks to the popularity of the franchise, there have even been some attractions inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's. The first of these was the Fright Dome, announced on September 7th, 2016, and opening that same month. The attraction opened at the Circus Circus Fright Dome, and was created thanks to an alliance between Scott Cawthon, creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, and Jason Egan, the creator of the Fright Dome. The attraction brought to life the infamous Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and was changed each and every day it was open to feature new jump scares and animatronics in new locations. The different rooms vaguely recreated scenes from the first game. When we entered the pizza place, we could see Freddy standing there seemingly deactivated with two signs. One that announced the grand reopening, and another which we could see the name of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. The next room was covered by curtains, and upon entering we could see what resembled the office or the monitoring room from the first game. Then there was a corridor that took guests to the main stage where they could see Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica. They all seemed deactivated except for Chica. She was standing upright, unlike the other two. The rest of the attraction was filled with references to the original game right up until the exit. While the attraction didn't have any real animatronics, it definitely makes way for a future attraction that could be based on the franchise. Now that doesn't mean that there's no real animatronics based on the Five Nights at Freddy's characters. Back in 2015, Dr. Creepypasta created a monstrous life-size Freddy Fazbear animatronic. This animatronic is extremely terrifying and does great justice to the original Five Nights at Freddy's characters. And I want to thank the Fastpass Facts crew for letting me share this information with you guys.
Puff the Dragon, Camelot Park. Located in the English county of Lancashire, this park was inspired by Camelot, King Arthur, and the Knights of the Round Table. It opened in 1983, and in the first years of its opening, it was one of the most visited places in the area. The park had several medieval-themed attractions and roller coasters such as Caterpillar Capers, Junior Dragon Coaster, Dragon Flyer, Excalibur, and Nightmare. It also had a huge white castle at the entrance and several shops on one side. On the other side, there was a lair, and inside that lair was Puff the Dragon. Yes, we know. This dragon was the park's mascot, and it welcomed guests and set the medieval mood before entering the park. This animatronic was one of guests' favorite things about the park. Camelot Park operated seasonally, until 2012 when it closed due to low attendance. Many people blame it on the 2012 Olympics, and many more sources say that there were many accidents around the park, and this is what made people stop going. Whatever the reason was, the park had to close, and it not only closed, but it was abandoned. This resulted in the park being a victim of vandalism, of course. The castle that was once the park's icon is now in an awful state and full of graffiti. There are lots of mannequins that used to belong to the attractions, and now can be found all around the park. Some of them are even headless, and many of the old attraction structures still remain, like the Nightmare roller coaster. Puff was of course abandoned for many years, but nowadays is nowhere to be found. Nobody knows what happened to the animatronic, if it was destroyed or stolen, but the lair where it used to be is now empty. The park is now fenced and entrance is prohibited to explorers, and it is even advised not to enter because it can sometimes be full of vandals and even arsonists, and there are currently no plans of tearing it down or opening it again. Western Village. Western Village opened in Japan in 1970 as a family ranch where guests could go horse riding, lasso practice, go fishing in a pond, and many more activities, all in the style of the Old West. Over time, the park started to grow. They acquired more horses, built more attractions, and hired more staff, including performers for live shows. The park continued to expand and even reached 1 million visitors per year. As part of this expansion, the park added animatronics to the attractions, and one of the most popular ones was an animatronic of John Wayne. There was also a canteen full of robotic cowboys and a haunted house that included a Grim Reaper dressed as a dentist. Every theme park has some iconic building. Disneyland has Sleeping Beauty's castle, Animal Kingdom has the Tree of Life, Western Village had a 1/3 scale replica of Mount Rushmore. Why? Because why not? The replica cost $27 million, and not only was it an exterior structure, but it had an interior room filled with human-sized teddy bears dressed in costumes. In 2007, the park grew, but so did its debts, and with the opening of Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea, fewer and fewer people were visiting the parks, so Western Village declared bankruptcy and had to close. Now the park is completely abandoned. Inside the cantina, the robots remain, rotting away with the pass of time. John Wayne's animatronic is still at the park, but it is practically destroyed. The interior of the Mount Rushmore replica is now abandoned and dark and completely terrifying. The park that was supposed to be a cowboy town became a ghost town, and there are no plans to restore it. In the words of the owner Ominami-san, the goal of life is not to make money, but to make your dreams come true. So maybe he did not make much money at the end, but his dreams came true.
Thank you so much, Ben Laurence. We love working with you. And now for the giveaway time, I'm Luz, and I'm gonna tell you how you can win this awesome plaque from Ye Old Prop Shop. All you have to do is follow us on Instagram at FastpassFacts. Then like and comment on this post. We will be announcing the winner next week on our Instagram stories, so be sure to check them out. The Old Prop Shop has awesome plaques, and we will be leaving a link in the description so you can check them out. They're currently offering free shipping on all orders over $35, 10% off all orders over $60, and 15% off all orders over $100. So be sure to check them out so you can get your holiday presents early.